position would you play?
I think I'm fuel because I'm high up. You know what I mean? You're Jackman?
I think I'm driver. Come on,
that's a douchebag move. Oh, you know what? I'm team owner. Hey, everybody. Welcome on back to the Rubbin' is Racing podcast. This is episode 2. This is a brand new podcast, and it's brought to you by NASCAR. NASCAR, we have another race coming up this Sunday. It's going to be the Palace Casino 400 from Fontana, California, the Auto Club Speedway. You can tune into Fox at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. That's February 26th, Sunday. Again, this season, we're celebrating the 75th anniversary of NASCAR, so every week is a special week. We got the Chicago Street Race coming up on July 2nd, and this is actually the final race at the Auto Club out in Fontana, but we're going to get into that as we break down this weekend's action. We are back, and we are back after a long weekend at Daytona. Spider and I were down there from Friday on out till Tuesday. And I gotta be honest, I'd gone to Daytona 4 years ago with you, and I had a fantastic time. And then everything that's happened since then has made NASCAR and Daytona worse. Daytona is back. Daytona 2023 is back, and it was a fantastic time, and it was one of those things that if it's on your bucket list and it's, somehow got pushed down on your bucket list, I'm telling you to push it back up because it's one of those things that you guys have got to get to. What's up, Spider?
Yeah, I agree, Large. Complete bucket list destination, especially for a sports fan. Even if you're not a NASCAR fan, I think Daytona is a must-get-to spot. You said it. We've been there before. The first time I went there, I really got a great experience, as we do with every trip NASCAR invites us on. But that one, I didn't really know what the fuck was going on, to be honest with you. I had no idea any of the drivers, any of the storylines. And since then, it's really only gotten more in bed with NASCAR, become more familiar with a lot of these guys. And the last couple ones, I mean, we had a COVID Daytona, we had a rain-out Daytona, and we watched a couple from the Gambling Cave here. So you said it, we're back. It felt unbelievable to be down there this weekend. Beautiful weather. Sold out crowd. The grandstand was sold out. The fan zone was sold out. The infield was packed. We were on top of RVs. We were guzzing beers. We had a barbecue. Everything about the weekend was awesome from my perspective, aside from maybe a little bit of an anticlimactic finish, which we'll get into.
And I'll tell you what, if there's one thing you learned by episode 2 is that we can't pick them. But and again, it's tough to call the Daytona 500. It's unlike any other race, and NASCAR is so strange the way that they do that. They put this, what's the biggest event of the year? Like what I witnessed in Daytona this weekend, I haven't witnessed in Phoenix the past 2 seasons, coming up with the Cup Series championship or anything. So it was very, very impressive. And as always, we're joined by QUIGS. We're joined by Liam on the 1s and 2s. Liam was down in Daytona with us. QUIGS was doing something more important. We had a bunch of people. We had Joey and Pat down there with us from the Out and About crew. We had Vibs down there who did something on the midway for lowering the bar. He did something in one of these, pop-ups right next to William Byron. There's William Byron, and here's Jeff Vibbert. And then we had Alex, the Mean Girls Alex. She was down there doing man on the street stuff. So it was like a big posse from Barstool down there, and it was awesome. I think before we get into the results, we were talking about what went wrong with the race. I kind of shit on NASCAR last week when I was talking about the Clash at the Coliseum. I don't have anything to shit on NASCAR really about this time because I enjoyed the race right on through into the finish. I had zero problems with the way that it finished. And then you had sent me a tweet, and I think you had retweeted a couple of people who said that they weren't that familiar with how overtime works in the Cup Series. And it was one of the things that may have spoiled their experience. What's the guy's name, Darren Rovell?
Darren Rovell,
Yeah, so he had said that. I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true for most people. I'm not even going to repeat the tweet because I think it's fucking ignorant. A lot of people don't know how overtime works in a lot of sports. So, yeah, if you're new to NASCAR, maybe you don't get it. So we're going to put an end to that right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, Darren Rovell's got me blocked on Twitter. I was sent a screenshot that he said.
What did that?
I'm not even sure. We're going on like a decade of being blocked, so I couldn't even put my finger on it. But yeah, Darren Ravel, he tweeted something about like NASCAR losing casual fans, which I couldn't disagree with more. I think the Daytona 500 is a great on-ramp for casual fans, especially when a guy like Ricky Stenhouse wins. That kind of this dude's running on a single car team and he gets the win. That's just like a testament to how unbelievable NASCAR is, how much parity there is at Daytona. So,
and a great guy. Like Ricky Stenhouse, we had met him that one time in Nashville.
Yep.
Right? And he was an absolute gem of a guy. I know he's close with a couple of our comps as far as podcasts go. Him and the Garage Guys are very, very close from what I understand. So Ricky
Shout out Garage Guys.
Yeah, it's Dale and Chase. I think it's one of those things where, you know, the storyline in it was very good. But again, some people don't understand how overtime works in other sports too. So, you know, in a segment that may be something that runs with us every now and again, we go to QUIGS. I tend to go to QUIGS.
Yeah.
Listen, this is a reminder right off the jump. With Rubbin' Is Racing, Spider and I are recent fans to NASCAR. We're Barstool employees who are recent fans. We're by no stretch of the imagination NASCAR experts, nor do we claim to be. And Spider and I, as we're getting into the sport, we find that the sport is exponentially more fun when you throw a couple of responsible bets on it.
Absolutely.
So that's why we do the little gambling thing at the end. And of course, we're owned by Penn, so it behooves us. But it really changes the complexion of this sport in particular. So that's the whole idea behind Rubbin' Is Racing. We're going to try to have different experiences at the track. And if it's a learning process for us, it might be a learning process for our audience. So we're bringing in QUIGS. QUIGS is our I like to throw air quotes around it when we call him an expert. He's just the smartest guy in the room. And this room isn't really fucking lighting up the world to begin with. So QUIGS, talk to me about NASCAR Overtime 101 with the Ask QUIGS. Can somebody get up like a graphic for that?
Yeah.
The Ask QUIGS segment. What goes on with NASCAR Overtime?
So it's not that complicated. It's just, I think the fact that what confuses people is how it fully ends. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, it's if you get in a situation, they don't want to end the race on cautions anymore. That's because overtime it's not new, but it hasn't always been around, mm-hmm. and their thought process is nobody enjoys seeing a race end in yellow. Mm-hmm. But basically, how it works is, once they go in overtime, it's a 2-lap shootout. And if you get through the first lap, then it's going to be final. So basically, once they throw the white flag, 1 lap to go, next flag ends it, whether it's yellow, whether it's checkers. That's pretty much it, and they'll go forever. There's no limit on it. But I don't know. I think it's an exciting way. I think there's a lot of strategy in it.
So then what happened at the end of this race? So walk us through what had happened that got Ricky into the lead, and then that eventually got him a Daytona 500 win.
Yeah, so they had 3 to go. They were running clean for a while, no cautions, and then somebody got into the back of Suarez, who was probably like 14th, 15th, pretty deep back there. And they threw the yellow. And so with 3 laps left, because they're going to go around with cautions, it goes to overtime. And then, yeah, they ran it once, pretty big wreck. And then on the second overtime, they had Ricky Stenhouse with Kyle Larson on his bumper. And they just he got a good push, and it was enough. And it was very close. Like, so they threw the caution, and I think it was between Logano and Stenhouse just edged him out.
It was. So it was. So Larson gave him the push, which put him in front of Logano, and then it was Chris Bell, also a former dirt track racer, who then gave him the final push right before Larson had gotten into the spin out. So then, as they then stop action, for lack of a better term, and they throw up the yellow light, it's a photo finish at that point.
Right.
Yep.
And Ricky had just at that time edged out Logano. We were talking about a matter of seconds. Like, it becomes a photo finish. and Stenhouse winds up winning. I mean, Logano was so fucking close.
Yeah.
And, with Chris Bell running third. So that's the way that it goes, right? Like, so they'll go into a caution like you had said, and then when they come out, they would love to have 2 clean laps. But if they make it past that first lap and there is some sort of caution, then it's a photo finish on when NASCAR recognizes the caution. That's how you have your winners.
Yeah.
And so that's it.
People complaining about the finish, but like you said, it was very close. Like once the flag was thrown, the yellow flag, it was very close between Joey and Ricky. So it's like it almost was still a photo finish. Sure, it didn't end with a checkered flag, but I don't know. Still
Yeah,
pretty
I don't
close.
get the complaining about it. I think it was exciting.
So
Yeah,
from our
100%.
perspective, we were obviously at the track. So like my question is, a lot of people and a lot of criticism seems to lie in the audience that watched from home. What was that experience like?
Yeah, people were freaking out about commercials. It seemed to be a big problem.
Yeah, justified or are they being unreasonable?
There's this graph going around on Twitter. If you follow NASCAR, you probably saw it, and it basically explained that it's no different than it is in the past. But I think what it was the first action of the race. It was either a caution or a big pass. Just happened during a commercial. There was a lot of like important things that happened during commercials. They had the Crank It Up segment, just had a Coke ad like overlaid, which defeats the whole purpose. It's commercials. It's nobody likes commercials.
249 minutes was the complete race broadcast. 200 of it was pure racing. 49 minutes of it was commercial. So I'll round it up to 250 with 250. So 20% of the broadcast was commercials. And it seems like that's in line. NASCAR doesn't have the luxury, like Liam had said, for TV timeouts, right? For end of quarters, for for all the, it just doesn't have it. So they have to try and pick it whenever they can, not knowing what's going to happen when they go out to commercial.
Right.
So it's just one of those things. It seems like Coca-Cola with Coke Zero Sugar. I think Coca-Cola had 15 of those ads.
Yeah,
and I know
surprise me.
Busch Light had 11. Like between Busch and Busch
But
Light had
that's
11.
every league. Like
course.
look at NFL playoffs. All we heard was Whopper, Whopper, Whopper. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think that's just a problem with watching any sport on TV nowadays.
Could I add too at the end? So the finish, like this is my first time watching it. Where were we at? Turn 4?
We were at turn 4, yeah.
Yeah, so you could see where the cars were going to refuel there. So could you talk about that? Because wasn't it longer? It was a longer race since it went into overtime.
Yeah,
So that was like interesting.
I think
to
that's
me.
like an interesting part of like
Yeah.
going into a bunch of overtimes that other people might not like, but the strategy that goes into it, where I think Keselowski did it, where he was maybe 10th place. He's not gonna shoot up 10 spots and win it, and he starts doing a fuel play where he's like, I know the rest of these guys are low, like very low. Like Stenhouse couldn't have gone to a third overtime. He would have had to refuel. So there, after the first OT, he's getting fuel in a hope that this goes 4 OTs. Everybody else has to pit. I've already pit. I'm up front. So I think that's a cool aspect of overtime.
It's a chess match. I mean, they said, do your burnout to Stenhouse, and he's like, I don't have any fuel.
He's got nothing.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
it was the
badass.
longest Daytona 500 in NASCAR history. It was actually 212 laps instead of 200. So it was actually the Daytona 530. So again, when you're running on tires and you're needing fuel to do it, it does like add to the chess match, which is NASCAR. So I don't have any complaints this year. This week. I don't have any complaints, and I love to fucking complain. Like
I think
a
NASCAR
complete weekend.
fans love to complain too, which is why some of them might have been so critical about this race. But yeah, I think another success. I don't know, and NASCAR's back off to what seems to be a great start. Like that was kind of an outside in the hunt, outlier driver that won with Ricky Stenhouse. It's not a driver. He could not win again this season, and I wouldn't be surprised. So I think it's good that he got a win now, and it's another new face, and the parity theme that we saw last year seemingly continues through 2 races here thus far.
Well, this is the numbers. So Adam Stern had tweeted this. I know people have been going around with it. Fox earned 8.18 million viewers for the Daytona 500, down 8% from last year, but it was the most watched show of the weekend and peaked with 10 million viewers at one point. So I think that's a net win for NASCAR, right? The level was down from last year, but the race was up in share. That seems to be something that I would think they're going for. So with the amount of ads and with the way that it had ended, I think that if you look at this from 30,000 feet, it was a success both on the broadcast end and also on the live event end, which we're going to talk about ad nauseum because, again, we fucking loved what had happened this weekend. Even before the weekend, it was the first time I had watched trials, because I felt like NASCAR was set up to really have a couple of storylines going into Daytona. Jimmy Johnson being what I thought was going to be the biggest, and he was not. It was Travis Pastrana. It was the Travis Pastrana show, from trials on through the race, and it was pretty cool to see. So as we're sitting back on Wednesday and Thursday and we're texting each other, and the whole deal, it was a nice setup for the weekend. Weather-wise, Friday was a disappointment. Zane Smith had won the Truck Series. It was a disappointment because they had to stop that because of the rain. Saturday, it was cold. Remember it was cold on Saturday when we had got out there in the morning? It was pretty goddamn cold. But Sunday was an absolute honey of a day at the track. And with the flyovers and with all that shit, I think we should break it down day by day. Want to do that?
Yeah, let's do it.
So we get in
Day
on
by
Friday. The crew, the posse, gets in on Friday. And like I said, the Truck Series was cool, but, the rain got in the way. And a bunch of familiar faces, like seeing Chase there, seeing Travis Pastrana in the Truck Series, seeing Corey LaJoy, Matt DiBenedetto, from our past, Haley Deegan, who unfortunately had wrecked. It was kind of cool. But what NASCAR did is that they had their annual party, Daytona party, after the Truck Series had ended, and it's normally in a hangar. It's a really cool party. I think I spoke with Mamba when he was on the show last time. But they normally do it where all the private jets are landing. They put out a stage, and it's normally a young country western artist. I don't think they say western anymore. Country artist who goes up. There you go.
Old ass.
There it is. That's the old ass one. So a country western artist who went down for a sarsaparilla at the fucking soda shop. But this year they did Diplo. They had Diplo there.
They threw a curveball.
And because of Diplo being Diplo, they couldn't have it at the hangar because he had the fucking lasers going that the FAA told him last minute, you can't have it here. Change it. So they changed it to like a local college gym. And so it was Diplo with the smoke machines and the laser. I mean, Liam, I know, from the outside looking in also on NASCAR, it's a bizarre thing to do on a NASCAR weekend to see a Diplo show, correct?
It was, yeah. It was definitely cool, though, being there, where it was like the guys, like, we were just like shooting the shit with Denny.
Jeff Gordon.
Jeff Gordon was there, just like dapping up Diplo and like walking right by us, being like, whoa, what's up, guys?
I can't remember the last time I felt
this
as uncomfortable as when I watched Jeff Gordon in the VIP kind of like bouncing First of all, I just said hello to Harrison Burton, who's 15 years old.
Harrison Burton's the man.
Yeah,
he led
young,
the
handsome
fucking
kid.
race.
Oh, yeah.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, overperforming. But you see, like, Jeff Gordon sort of dancing the Diplo in the VIP section. And then conversely, I was very comfortable seeing Kurt Busch out there with the rest of everybody. Do you know what I mean? Not like buying Molly or anything like that, but really being in that like whole Diplo thing.
No, he was there to chaperone Tyler Reddick, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. But I thought it was a great time still. A little bit empty because they meant for it to be so many people in a hangar, and it went to so many people in a basketball arena.
Yeah, no, the hangar would have been sick, but also it's very cool for the story that like Diplo went too hard in like dress rehearsal that the FAA complained and like pilots were upset,
Right.
like the lasers are too bright.
Right.
So yeah, I think we ended up maybe potentially like 10% chance that might be the gym where Vince Carter balled out. I know he is a. Oh, actually, no. I'm sorry. Was it a high school or college gym?
I think it was college.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, he went to high school in Daytona Beach. Forgive me.
So he must have played there.
Yeah.
He might have played there.
He
at some
probably
point.
shot around there.
Those hollowed halls have now seen the likes of Large Spider, Jeff Gordon, Diplo, and Vince Carter.
Yeah.
It looks like any generic like Netflix show would have
look
been
like,
shot there.
It looked like a high school movie set.
Yeah.
Like
Right,
not a real
yeah.
high school, just like a set for one.
Yes.
But we were talking with the High Point guys there. We had met the Coca-Cola guys there.
Very good networking event.
100%. And on top of it, like in the background, like as I'm talking to the guy from High Point, the two brothers,
Yeah.
nicest guys in the
High
world.
Point rocks. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
even know what they do, but they're very cool.
Yeah, like
Is it the
IT
school?
services.
Not high.
No.
Oh.
Chase Briscoe
Yeah.
sponsored highpoint.com. I
Yeah.
think.
But like again, Quigs, you'd love these guys. And like as I'm talking to him, I was like, can somebody shut Diplo up in the fucking background? You know what I mean? And Diplo was like catering, like starting with like Journey before he went into like the whole like he really like did it up. And then I wound up stealing a giant vase filled with candy bacon. We got fucking legless. Went back to the hotel, and so it was a good night. It was a good night on Friday.
Large ended it just walking around the lobby of our hotel, being like, "Anybody want bacon?"
Yeah, it was sweet peppered bacon. They just had big vases out of it, and so as we were leaving, you know, they were like, "Do you want one for the road?" And I grabbed that instead of a beer.
They didn't ask you. You just
They didn't
took
ask that at all.
Yeah.
So, and I even offered it to the Uber driver.
Did he take it? Did they?
No, he did not. He was afraid of the big guy with the bacon.
Fair.
So Friday, relatively late night, but fantastic. Saturday, we had a couple of meetings. We met with a Trackhouse crew who just seemed down to fuck. They're like, if you guys want to come meet the guys from the pits, like going forward.
Yeah.
So like the relationship we have with the 3-car, you know, with Paul Swan and
RCR,
whatnot. Yeah. So great people. We might get down to their actual place in Charlotte.
Yeah.
Right. So they seem like great people. So we're going to try and get together with them going forward. I did get to meet their pit crew briefly on Sunday before the race. And then outside of that, we did Pastrana. What did you think? So we got Pastrana, Travis Pastrana didn't have a handler reach out to me. The guy who reached out to me was a stunt driver. He reached out to me on Instagram, and I looked him up, and he was like jumping Vespas into mud puddles. Like he's one of those
Yeah.
dudes. Set me up with Travis Pastrana. Setting us up with Travis Pastrana, excuse me. What did you think? So we go to the thing and meet the guy.
Yeah, I think it was, I mean, back to the whole networking thing. Great networking. We met with Trackhouse, who obviously is doing very exciting things.
Right.
Hopefully we can bring you that exciting flavor that they're bringing to NASCAR. But Travis Pastrana, the fact that we got the chance to meet with him was like surreal. He's a motorsport legend who, you want to talk about a guy who's done it all. He's literally done pretty much everything, not even motorsports. I would just go as far to say extreme sports. So to see him in on the 500 like we were, well, I guess not like we were there as fans, but to see him running it was unreal. And even cooler to see how appreciative, fortunate, gracious he was toward 2311, Denny Hamlin, Michael Jordan in the process. Because And Kurt, yeah. They definitely hooked him up with a sweet car, which I kind of wanted to ask him about. But yeah, like he got really good equipment, but also he's really talented. The skill is there. Getting himself there, qualifying on speed before we even get to Daytona. Just fascinating. The whole thing is unbelievable. Like these are cars that the full-time NASCAR Cup drivers are still getting a handle on, the new next gen, well, I guess 7th gen car at this point, whatever you want to call it. And this is a guy, Travis Pastrana, who just comes in and makes it look easy. Now, maybe it's the equipment, like I said, or maybe it's just the fact that he's got, like, you know, ungodly level of skill.
All I've seen is clips of him. I've never seen, like, maybe I compare him to Tony Hawk a little bit too much, but I've seen Tony Hawk do all these other things like game shows and stuff. I've never really listened to Travis in an interview before this. So if you subscribe to the YouTube channel for Rubbin' Is Racing, which I highly recommend that you do. If you're listening to this, that's great, but you'll also see it on the YouTube channel. We have the Travis Pastrana interview on there, and I defy you to listen to that guy and how much of a gentleman he is and then not root for him afterwards.
He's the man.
Yeah,
you know?
It'll be in the vlog that we put out this week from Daytona. He was like super down-to-earth guy. Like when we got there, he was just chilling in his RV.
Yeah, that was my favorite thing. He said that he was like making jokes at his own expense about his RV. He seemed like self-conscious.
Yeah.
He was so humble that he was like, yeah, you see, he pointed. He's like, you see that RV? And he points to like the most modest, like smallest one in the yard. And he's like, that's mine. And he points to like a Class C RV, whereas all these other guys have like 40-foot, you know, Class A RVs. Crazy. They got their own driver. He's just chilling in there like with the dog.
Yeah.
Like,
His guys ripped a shot with Large afterwards.
God. So these dudes are like, oh, we know about you dudes. Let's do a shot afterwards. Not Travis. You know, like, so all is, and again, like a lot of times these drivers surround themselves with their publicist. and I don't know, like professional people. Travis's posse had more of a jackass type feel to it.
Yeah,
they're all wearing like the Dixon flannels.
Are they all Nitro Circus guys?
Yeah.
It did seem like I was like on an
that's
episode of Nitro Circus Fantasy Factory. Like, yeah.
So they were like, "Can you do a shot of Jameson with us afterwards?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." I mean, I've spilt more shots than you guys drank. You know, one of those asshole things. I was like, "Sure." Me and Spider and Liam and all of a sudden, and Cody was down there with us. Cody Lanza.
Shout out Cody.
Yeah, what up? And then so when it comes time and the bottle comes out, these three cowards are fucking ass and elbows. And instead of, they're out. And instead of bringing out shot glasses, they bring out coffee cups. And so they start pouring whiskey into the coffee cups. And so I bang back a whiskey with them. And then we go over to the RV he's staying at. And there was a dude there who was an ex-cop who had a service dog. A beautiful Belgian
Malinois, I believe they're called.
Yeah, and so it was like a smaller shepherd. Beautiful dog. Full vest that says "Do not touch service dog," but you still want to molest the shit out of it.
It was aggressive. Do not pet signs.
Yeah,
both sides like fuck off. Definitely don't touch my dog.
Yeah, I think the other side says, and that means you. No, that includes you, because like somebody must be like, no, I love these dogs, and they were having nothing. But then the guy's name escapes me, but the dog's name was Archer. And he's like, Large, go ask him to go get you a beer. So I was like, Spider, get me a beer. Spider's like, I don't get you a beer. And so the guy goes, Archer. And so the fucking dog runs over, grabs the beer out of the, opens the cooler, grabs a beer out of the cooler and runs it over to me. And I punctured it on the way in. So then I shotgun the thing with a bunch of guys from the Nitro Circus. It's kind of a cool thing, right? Like I'm coming off a Diplo.
A bunch of veterans, the Nitro Circus guy, and a wildly trained dog.
Yeah. And
you never know what you're going to find in the infield of Daytona.
And then we wound up sitting with Travis Pastrana's dad, during the actual race, which I'll get to, in a bit. So very, very, and again, NASCAR gives us this access, which is second to none. So, shout out to them. But just a great experience. And again, impossible not to root for the guy. Then we go back to the RV. Our RV was pretty pimped out.
Yeah, unreal.
Do some luau thing.
It was nicer than Travis.
Yeah, it was much nicer. He was in the Cousin Eddie thing.
Yeah.
But they threw us a luau. We're smoking cigars. The Kentucky boys, my people, Denny and Michelle, the Kentucky cop. Denny,
I got to stop you real quick. NASCAR media marketing team really knows how to cook. We were eating so good all weekend. Like pulled pork, we had filet sliders, like everything. So good. Cowboy beans, which are Bush's baked beans with like hamburger meat in there. So good. So good. And honestly, that might have been.
Who was the guy next to us too who had the big cookout? He was like the countertop king of Florida.
Countertop king of northern Florida.
Yeah.
He's got Jimmy.
A legend.
Jimmy was like, fix yourself a plate. So yeah, we were eating really well inside the infield of Daytona. Another bucket list item, like get down there and get yourself a plate. It's ungodly.
And by the way, we're staying in like the regular RV section, and in that regular RV section, we've been to the Daytona Boys bar, again run by our guys Denny and Michelle.
Not Denny Hamlin.
No, Denny. Yeah, Denny is a Kentucky cop. He's a retired
awesome.
Kentucky cop, and his wife makes apple pie moonshine, which is awesome. I mean, she gave me a jar. Like, we were driving by, and they'd seen me in the golf cart, recognized me, ran out, big hugs, gave us the jar. We finished that jar that night. That was on Friday. Saturday, she gives us another jar. And then when they come visit us, I say, it's already gone. She jumps into the golf cart, goes back, brings back two more. We're moonshine and cigars, and again, like Connecticut, Brooklyn, like it's surreal for us, right?
Yeah.
Massachusetts. So it's one of those things that just makes sense. But even outside of that, there's also Tent City, which we got to see because of the gay guys we brought with us. So if we put up little segments about what's going on with this podcast, Daytona got a little bit gayer this weekend because of Barstool. You're welcome. Patty and Joey went down there. And for people who don't know the Out and About podcast, it's Barstool's gay podcast and does very well, and it's hosted by a guy named Pat McAuliffe, who was my producer when we used to do Barstool Breakfast, and the gayest guy who's ever lived. His name is Joey Camassa, and he's fucking fantastic.
Great description.
He is. And so like the whole thing, when you're going down there into the South, NASCAR, all this stuff that people throw around, these guys were so welcome and have like fans there and stuff like that. It was awesome to see. Like the Wendy's guy came over and we were speaking with one of the Wendy's reps because maybe we do something with Wendy's, maybe not. And Patty, one of the gay dudes, who was wearing a McDonald's jacket, he's like, why is he wearing that jacket? I'm like, no, that's good for you. You could use the ad, Wendy's makes you gay. Totally tongue-in-cheek, right? We're
McDonald's
huge. McDonald's, I'm sorry, yeah, McDonald's makes you gay. Don't strike that. And the guy's like, like uncomfortable laughter. And then I gave him that second one. No, Wendy's, square patties for round daddies. And I showed him my belly. So I think we have a shot with them. But the whole weekend, we had these guys like giving their input, as we did with Alex, as she continues to do, as we did with Jeff. But like Joey used to do the makeup for the France family, right? The France family started NASCAR?
The France family started NASCAR. Joey used to do the makeup for Jeff Gordon, but somehow knows.
He used to. Jamie France is the grandson.
The granddaughter.
No, I think he's the grandson.
Oh.
And she's married to him.
Okay.
Right,
Forgive me. I thought that was Jamie. Jamie's a boy and girl name.
Right. Oh, yes. I'm sorry about that. So Jamie is the grandson of the guy who started NASCAR. His wife, Joey, used to do her hair and makeup. Joey was a makeup artist. He was with Snooki from
Jersey Shore.
Yeah, for a long, long time.
Joey's done it all.
So Joey had said to us in like his very swishy way, I know we're going to our box at some point, but if you think the box we're going to is nice, and this is me putting on the affectation, wait till you go to the owner's box or the originator. So we said, sure. And we went out there, and it wound up being in Tent City.
It was Tent City.
It was in Tent City.
But it was for the better large.
Oh, it was awesome. We passed the Monkey Bar, which is a famous pop-up bar in Tent City. And it wound up the France people really down to earth. And so right after turn 3, between 3 and 4, they set up their own little scaffolding, which was kind of sketch. It was a little bit shaky when I was up there. Just with like hardcore Southern NASCAR people. I mean, jorts and fucking flip-flops.
Yeah.
Not like when we went down to see Jimmy Johnson's box in L.A. and we were in the Founders box and it was Gwen Stefani and stuff like that. There was a caution flag. Caution shot. Somebody hands me a shot of Peach Crown Royal, which is fucking dog shit. I don't know if they're ever going to be a sponsor. And it was just like real, like down home type stuff like that. So we really got to see across everything, I think, while we were down there.
That was the moment where I was like you said earlier, you were like, wow, NASCAR's back. We're back here at the Daytona 500.
Yeah.
That was the first moment where I was like, damn, we are back. Because once you're in the infield, like, I don't know, set up like that. Some people just have it figured out. They do things the right way. They know how to properly prepare for the Daytona 500. And when you can just kind of like, finesse your way into their setup or just pretend like, just be part of their thing for a minute, it's unbelievable. Like even the guy next to where our NASCAR RV was, it was a school bus with an upper deck scaffolding on it with a great view of the track. So you really got to just get to the track and just meet people, mingle with people. And
I would say even one more thing. If you get to the track, go with Spider. Once again,
Disagree.
And Liam, I know you haven't gone with us yet, Quigs, but you have to say, everybody knows him. And for people who are listening to this and haven't seen the anomaly that's me, I'm 6'5". I'm bald. I'm very, very white, like a beacon in the sun. There's no way you could fucking miss me. Spider is 5'10".
No.
He's thinner. He wears a baseball cap. He's nowhere near as big. He's less than half my size as far as weight. I'm morbidly obese. Nobody fucking knows me. Like, honestly, I'm a lighthouse.
I'll see
and
large.
Every time he walks by, it's like girls and like I'm saying across drivers, particularly when we were down there on Saturday, like a lot of the Xfinity type guys. Like jumping out, like what was the dude's name? 98.
Riley Herbst.
Yeah. Oh, with the Monster
Riley
girls.
Herbst, the monster.
The Monster girls knew. It's uncomfortable.
Did they? I didn't put that together.
It's good to see Cole Custer. It's good to see Cole Custer there. Like it seems like.
Well, I appreciate the kind words, Large, but I think the same is true for you, and I think we complement each other really well because there's connections you have that I don't. For example, all these pop-up bars in the infield. I don't know the Kentucky boys. Sure, I pulled up at their bar once, but not well enough to, be gifted moonshine 3 times over through a 3-day course, or regularly go visit them. So it's great to really just be there schmoozing with people, because between Larch and I, we usually find a way to
Let's get to Sunday. Right, so this is Sunday. I think you guys are okay with this, right? Like kind of going day by day. Sunday is 65th running of the Daytona. I told you it was the longest one ever. I like to throw in a twisted history fact because that's one of my other podcasts. No big deal. I'm very busy. I didn't know 40 people had died at Daytona. Do you know that? 40 people since it started? Drivers. Yeah, like
No,
motorcyclists, like racers.
Oh, just
I should say.
any event they've ever
and out of all their
hosted,
things, 40 people. I thought that was a big number. I don't know what it is compared to other ones, but I had read a couple of things on it. 40 is a big number.
It is, but it's also a historic track. When was the last one? Was it Dale Sr.?
I think it was Dale.
Yeah, I was going to say, I bet
So-
if you looked at a graph of that, it's probably just drastically fallen off.
I think since 1959,
Yeah.
like I'm sure it's front-loaded and stuff, but 40, I mean, kind of puts stuff in perspective. And again,
It's a lot, yeah.
seeing this thing live, the best view is from the upper deck. My wife and my 2 kids came down. I had them seats in 418 right after turn 4, all the way up. I mean, they could have changed a light bulb in heaven. But you really get to see. There's no way you can get around a 2.5 mile, oval without being up that high. But if you're down low, right on the fucking, on the fence, and see when they come by you, it doesn't get old. It doesn't get old. But we got to the track. And as they were about to do the flyover, Dirk Bentley had done a concert. They do the concert on the thing, so Dirk Bentley had done a concert on the actual track, as we know, in the infield. And then when they went to do the flyover, I think it was Morgan, had said, by the way, they're going to do a little something extra.
Yeah.
And the Blue Angels wound up doing a full air show.
6-minute air show.
And it was awesome.
I felt like I was like watching them film and produce Top Gun in real time. So back to the whole conversation about watching on TV versus being there in person. Like, you need to get there in person for yourself to any race, because it's completely a different experience. I hope that they showed even a second of that air show on the broadcast, because it was one of the coolest things I've ever seen. They had like 6 fighter jets in formation, buzzing like right over the grandstand, like right over. It seemed very close.
It looked so low.
Yeah, it was the coolest thing I think I've seen live, and that includes the Coke 600. Like the military guys coming down through the Apache helicopters in the infield of the Coke 600. Like, this was just as cool. They buzzed by so many times. I don't know. That was honestly
doing the diamond, where their wings look like they're touching.
Yeah.
So they do a 4-point diamond. Then they go into the delta, which is the diamond plus they add the other extra 2 to go out to the triangle. Tight stuff. I mean, I don't know if I should mention it now, but I was just given the opportunity to fly in an F-16 with that, and I think I'm too fat to fly. So we have somebody else who might be doing it from Barstool. But we're going to work out the kinks with that. That would be sometime closer to the summer. And when I saw that, I'd gotten the call last week to fly in one of these in exactly one of these Blue Angel things, and now I'm not sure if I could do it.
Well, you know who did do it?
Who's that?
Noah Gregson and Jimmy Johnson got in there.
Yeah.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
But that's different, right? I mean,
you probably used to all that's interesting as well. I wonder how familiar, like, you ever see those videos of people like test themselves on those G-force simulators? Yeah. Like, do you think NASCAR drivers have more tolerance or the ability to perform on those well?
100%. I mean, they have to. By definition, that's what they do.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so let's go. Let's go to the race. What were your thoughts as the race started, all that kind of stuff? What was your thought on the race itself?
I thought honestly, I didn't have many complaints at all. You look at the racing, not single file. They're pretty much running 2x2 for the most part. Everyone pretty conservative, like a normal Daytona 500 race. And yeah, I mean, I thought it was pretty good. We didn't have, I will say, we didn't really have like the big one. I don't know. Do you guys agree with that?
Yeah, there was nothing like just covering it on social. There was nothing I felt comfortable being like the big one.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, big crash just happened, but like, and I don't know what the number is to make it the big one, but
no, neither
there
do I.
There were wrecks that got a lot of people caught up in, but nothing that was like, holy shit, there goes half the
Yeah.
field.
So I guess, I mean, and how spoiled am I for that to be my complaint? But there really wasn't any crazy big drama super early on. And, yeah, I would have liked to see a wreck with maybe the opportunity for some of these long shot, big odd guys to be there in a position to win late at the end. And I'm not saying Ricky Stenhouse isn't one of those guys, but, I mean, in years past, it's been like the longest of long shots is some of the only cars that remain. So
It ran without incident until lap 118 when Harvick had put Reddick into the wall.
We were right by where Joey had us too there, so like we actually had a good view of it.
Right.
When
we put him into the wall. I turned him sideways, right around turn 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, to see in person. It was crazy.
But I mean, it's one of those things where, and I'm going to harken back to what we're going to do at the end. We had gone through. QUIGS is there's a little clip of QUIGS from last week where he's like, those are far too many picks, because Spider had just basically picked every driver in the field. But I felt invested, even though I didn't even break even. I lost money on the race. The only thing that I hit on was the Chevy bet. But I felt invested, especially right up into the end with that minus 10.5 that we had going. And with the lead changes, which is going to happen every year at Daytona, I realized that. I really did feel invested in this race, which made it a lot more exciting. On top of, still rooting for Pastrana. I'm not embarrassed of any of the picks that I had made, because I don't really think that I had, I didn't feel very, very, very strongly about them. But I would tell you that one person that should be embarrassed has got to be fucking QUIGS, because I really felt that for our first episode, and for people who don't know QUIGS, he's a fucking genius with the animation and stuff. When you watch the football show that Dave and Dan and Stu Feiner do, anytime you see something that's cool, it's because of QUIGS. Guy's fucking great, and we're happy to have him on. We're very, very lucky to have it, and Liam. So I shouldn't say anything, but Liam is not. But Liam was not such a loudmouth about his fucking bets. QUIGS was, and for people who don't remember, QUIGS was like, yeah, Pastrana. I can't even do good QUIGS. now I'm Joey Molinaro. Yeah. By the way, Joey Molinaro coming up in a little bit. He was like Pastrana, and what was the bet? What was the fucking bet?
It was Jimmy Johnson versus Travis Pastrana.
Head-to-head. Yeah.
I made a Antonio Gates, Carmelo Anthony analogy.
Yes.
I thought it was going to be the easiest bet of all time.
Right.
I thought
you were like, get it before they take it down. I think it's a
mistake.
Yeah, it's our own company.
It moved a lot, but I went against my own cardinal rule, where it's like, just don't take anything at Talladega that has low odds, because your guy can just get taken out at any point. Like, Jimmy was ahead of Pastrana the whole race. Other than Pastrana led a lap, but he was just on a different pit cycle than everyone. But it was the last I think it was in the Kyle Busch wreck. So with 3 to go, Jimmy got taken out.
I will
and then
say,
you just get the DNF. He goes down to the bottom.
It took way longer to settle that than what I thought.
And Pastrana finished 11th.
He finished. I thought that this bet was going to be finished by lap 50.
Yeah, I thought there was a chance that Pastrana wouldn't qualify, which was a little bit dumb. He had the right equipment, but I thought that maybe he wouldn't get in on the qualifying laps just because he didn't get any practice in the car. He might miss a shift, and then he's low on time, has to do it through the duels. But yeah, I broke my own rule of just there's no reason to ever take anything with a minus sign at Daytona, because you just don't know if your guy's going to finish or not.
You're right.
It was a terrible call.
It wasn't.
And it wasn't a terrible call.
It's a terrible result.
There are no terrible calls at Daytona. I think, to your point, there are no terrible calls. But I just loved when you had made all these different comparisons to it. And when it happened, fucking Spider's we have to mention it.
No. Since we have to mention things, I also should probably apologize to our guy Ricky Stenhouse, who won the fucking race. Last week in the pick segment, I said, well, the reason I wanted to take 500 drivers, which you guys clowned me for, was because, quote, someone like Ricky Stenhouse can always come along on lap 3 and put you in the wall. Which, yeah, maybe there's a little bit of truth there. Ricky's kind of an aggressive driver, but Ricky is also now a Daytona 500 champion. He's a guy that I put money on in years past to win the very race he did this past Sunday. we're happy for him. I'm a Ricky Stenhouse fan. He's the nicest guy on earth. I need to
his
clear
third-
that up. Ricky, I'm sorry. We love you, brother.
So what we have today for you guys, I probably should have mentioned it at the start, is that we're going to try to do at least an interview or two every week. So we have one interview a little bit coming at you, but we also have Stenhouse. But Stenhouse is coming to New York, so we're going to have him live in studio on Thursday when this podcast drops. So the Ricky Stenhouse interview will then be in a separate piece. So we're going to have the vlog from Daytona drop. We're going to have this podcast that you're listening to drop. And we're also going to have the Ricky Stenhouse interview drop. So 3 things from last week. And then the interview that we're going to have in just a little bit is Conor Daly, which was another interesting story. Another IndyCar driver who came over, against all odds, made it into the Daytona 500 and ran 29th. So it was all these things that added up to us going in, and we're going to get into it with Ricky. But first driver from Mississippi ever to win. His only 3rd Cup Series race that he's won, which is pretty goddamn, impressive. When they mention a winner of the Daytona 500, it has an aura about it that I actually wanted to ask you guys. Kyle Busch has never won it. Martin Truex has never won it. Is it similar when you have a guy who's been around for a long time, like Martin, and a guy who's probably a shoo-in for the Hall of Fame, like Kyle Busch? I think I could say that out loud, right?
Yeah.
Never. Is that like the Charles Barkley, Dan Marino type thing that they never won the big one if you don't win the Daytona 500?
I don't think super speedways are just so. There is an aspect to what you're saying. It's one that you really want. It's so important. People care about it so much, but I just feel like it's tough to get on somebody for not winning a super speedway.
I think
it's such a crapshoot sometimes.
People are so critical either way that they're critical of people that hate on drivers without them, but then they're also like, oh, it's so easy to win it. So I think it's somewhere in the middle. It certainly takes skill, but at the same time, there is a level of luck there. There's no denying the fact that it requires skill for a lot of these guys to be there year after year at the end when there's 5 to go. That is skillful in itself. But I also think that, to Quiggs' point, you can still have a wildly Hall of Fame Kyle Busch successful NASCAR career without the Daytona 500 championship, or without a Daytona 500. I look at Denny Hamlin, for example, a guy that's won 3 Daytona 500s and not won a season-long NASCAR Cup championship. I think he would be someone that's interesting to hear from regarding this. But I think people would much rather.
Denny would say right away that Daytona's more important because he's got 3 of them. You know what I mean? It just seems like that's what makes this such a wild sport. I don't know what the comp to that is. Having a ring versus having an MVP.
I was kind of thinking that. I don't know if it really does line up, but
it doesn't, right?
But I feel like the whole thing with NASCAR is they switch it up. They do a bunch of different styles of track. I think winning the season overall is a much bigger thing for legacy.
Yeah, undoubtedly.
Purposes.
But I think for again, a single car team, right? JTG Darty. This is huge for them.
It is.
This is huge to have a Daytona 500 winner. I mean, from now on, if Ricky Stenhouse never wins a Cup championship, never wins the series, he's always going to be Daytona 500 winner, Ricky Stenhouse. Right. Right? I mean, it's, a Ricky Stenhouse to Ricky Waffle House because he went to the Waffle House after he won.
Quiggs.
Yeah. It doesn't do the burnout because he doesn't have enough gas, but then he scales the fence. And then the fence, which kind of bows out towards the track, obviously, he grabs onto that. He starts doing pull-ups, 20 feet off the asphalt. You know what I mean? He was very, very interesting to watch, and we're very, very happy that now he is Daytona 500 winner Ricky Stenhouse. And I'm going to kiss his ass tomorrow. But what was the scheduling for that? Because I'm off. So this drops today on Thursday.
Yep, Thursday morning, and then Thursday night we'll premiere that interview with Ricky Stenhouse, and then Friday afternoon we'll say the vlog. from Daytona will drop.
Excellent.
So, yeah, a bunch of content going into the weekend. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube.
Yeah, a lot of stuff is going to be just on the YouTube as well as, well, just on the YouTube, I should say. So make sure you're subbed there because obviously this is a podcast, but we have so much going on all the time. We're lucky with the amount of access we're given. We're not going to say no to stuff, but some stuff will just be exclusive to the YouTube.
Yeah, a lot of cool shit that
The
we
vlog.
saw over the weekend. Yeah, so might as well check that out.
Right.
rather than just
Travis
giving it a
Pastrana.
listen. Yeah, Travis Pastrana. We saw, I mean, just all the shit going around with the
Yeah.
gay guys.
Yeah.
A lot of good
exactly.
stuff
Also,
there.
We're all
Yeah.
we're all just a little bit more gay.
On
Yeah.
top of
and I'm
that,
okay with that.
On
Yeah.
top of that, stay tuned for their show, Working Girls. They're dropping a NASCAR-themed Working Girls episode, as well as Alex Bennett just released a NASCAR vlog of her time at Daytona. So go check out both those. We're pumped to have the whole squad, Vibs included, in Daytona with us, and he nailed the lowering the bar thing.
You really did. And that's not easy to do. We've been on those midways trying to do like live shows.
A lot of times it's a tough crowd.
Like you'll have William Byron get up there and start to do like a live show, but it's tough to advertise that because people are just walking around the midway. So, like we walked in, Byron's there and he's got 20 people listening to him. But if they, somehow promoted it more, and it's impossible to promote. That thing would have been mobbed. And then Tom Segura and Bert Kreischer.
Yeah.
Like they were able to get that out because they were able to do it internally. So they had a pretty big crowd there as they did their live show. By the way, Tom Segura is jacked.
Yeah.
He's jacked now. Bert Kreischer looks like me with hair, but Tom Segura is jacked. So we're gonna not put a bow yet on Daytona. We're gonna put a bow on it when we do the Conor Daly interview, which is coming up. But Spider had a thing that I thought was kind of interesting that we may do on a weekly basis, right? What was it?
So this is an idea we're test launching. We're test driving this segment, if you will. Let us know your feedback.
It's the trials.
We're a betting show, and now we're not obviously taking over-unders with this segment, but it's kind of like that. I'm calling it overperformed/underwhelmed. So each week maybe give a few guys who you think you took the over, they overperformed, and then underwhelmed under. So let's start. I'm going to give a shout out to a guy that I think overperformed tremendously, that's often ragged on and is made many jokes at his expense. That is my guy Riley Herbst. Riley Herbst finished top 10 in the Daytona 500 driving the 15 car. He's the fourth driver with a top 10 in his debut racing in the Cup Series, Xfinity Series, and Truck Series starts. So that's impressive in itself. Not to mention the 3 ARCA Series. He's the only driver in NASCAR history to get his first to get top 10s in his debut races in all of those series. So Riley Herbst, say what you want. I'm a fan of the 98, the 15, whatever car he's wheeling. The Sonny D scheme was looking hot, and he showed up at Daytona, and he did his thing. So shout out to our guy, Riley Herbst. Another guy, I took the over on Zane Smith. QUIGS cashed on Friday night with the truck bet on Zane Smith. His second consecutive season opener win at Daytona in the Truck Series. And then he goes on Sunday to finish 13th in the Cup Series. So these young guys really stepped up and performed. I'm proud of really all the guys that qualified their way in. I want to also take the over on Pastrana and Daly, who showed up and over-delivered. Another quick mention for Harrison Burton. I'm taking the over on. He led the race, and 14 to go, he led the race. He did finish 16th, but he looked good. Taking the under for guys that disappointed and underwhelmed me. Chase Elliott, Tyler Reddick were the first cars involved in a wreck. I know it's a super speedway, so obviously those things happen. However, I did have high expectations for both those Chevys. But also another group that underwhelmed me was the Fords. The Blue Ovals looked dominant. I had high expectations for Ryan Blaney, but late in the race, you got Joey Logano and the RFK boys with Chris Buescher and Brad Keselowski all looking like they could win the race, but not able to get it done. Joey's left all alone with no help. He's got Ricky Stenhouse, Kyle Larson, and Christopher Bell behind him there at the end. I know his team, the other Fords, RFK guys, got fuel, but had the Ford stepped up and remained in the race, he would have had some teammates, some help, and maybe won the race if not for another Ford. So the Fords underwhelmed me. Large, Who over?
I liked Logano's performance, but you said I don't blame it on him. I blame it that he didn't have the help that Stenhouse had. Yeah, so I think that's I was so fucking excited for Kyle Busch. Like I thought that was going to be electric to see him, in the winner's circle afterwards. So that was a disappointment. Obviously, we're always pulling for Reddick because he's a big friend of the show, and then even Briscoe kind of falling off. It was a little bit disappointing for me. The story of the weekend was Pastrana, so I'll ride that. And to your point, we're about to talk to a kid named Conor Daly who went through a lot of different shit with his car in particular, right? Coming over to this new platform, if you will, and he still finished the Daytona 500, 29th, but still. So I thought that throughout the ups and downs, there was a lot of stuff to consider. But at the end of the day, the biggest outperformer I thought this weekend was NASCAR. Because when you come back from having, the COVID years and all that kind of stuff, and you pack 100 and some odd thousand people in the grandstand, and then you pack another, seemingly 500,000 people in the infield, and you give us the flyovers and the great concerts and a great race, it was just fantastic. So we're gonna talk more about what's going on this weekend with NASCAR. As a reminder, NASCAR is rolling into Fontana. We're going to get to that in 1 second. But before we put a button on this, the aforementioned outperformer in my eyes and Spider's eyes, here's Conor Daly. All right, so as promised, we have Conor Daly on. Conor Daly, a full-time IndyCar driver. He was lucky enough to sit behind the wheel of the number 50 car, right? The number 50 Chevy Camaro for the money team this past weekend at the Daytona 500. He's a friend of Spider's. He's a friend of Vib's. He's now a friend of mine. He's also the co-host of the Speed Street podcast on Dirty Mo Media. They're shaking in their fucking boots now that Rubbin is racing his back. You know what I mean? Because we're coming for that
I'm sure
ass,
Dale Jr. is
right?
losing sleep.
Conor, what's up, man? Welcome on board to Rubbin is Racing. How's everything going?
I appreciate it, guys. Honestly, everything's great. Full on. Have recovered from the Daytona 500 weekend. It was crazy, as I'm sure you guys have as well. That was a whole new experience for me. I'd never been to the race before, so I'd always watched religiously on TV. But I always said I would never go unless I was racing in it, and so thankfully I was able to.
What a
get
fucking
in it this time.
flex!
That is.
What a flex! I don't watch porn unless I'm in it. Listen, let me ask you something.
Strong move.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I don't watch much porn. So you like now join like a short but illustrious list of people who have raced in both the Indy 500 and the Daytona 500. What were the expectations coming in, and how is the reactions going out? Placed 29th in this thing. Talk to me about expectations versus reality.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, man, with no practice, it was very challenging. I'd done one cup race before at the Roval end of last year. And, the money team that we're with, small operation. When I first got down there, we were running the car out of like Kurt Busch's former man cave. Like, so it was kind of an interesting vibe down there. But, small family operation, trying to go up against some of the big guns in NASCAR. I mean, it was going to be a challenge, but we kind of planned on doing a couple other races later in the year. We're going to do COTA in Austin, Texas at the end of March. And then we're going to do the Indy road course double Brickyard weekend in August as well. And then maybe a couple others. So we kind of just added, it was basically like buy 4 races, get 1 free with the Daytona 500 because they had a car there ready to go for the race. And honestly, we knew the risk of not making it. But there was a huge upside, not only financially for the team, but for us to gain a lot of experience as well if we did make it. And honestly, I had no expectations because I didn't know anything. I only had watched it in the past, right? And racing at the Roval, very different experience than racing at Daytona. So we didn't really know what expectations to set, but like getting to the race, I mean, that was an amazing experience. It was something that, we got super lucky to do it, but I mean, it's the Daytona 500. It's one of those bucket list events. It's one of the motorsport Triple Crown events, and almost an honor to be a part of the field for it.
So unbelievably respectable prerequisite for you to say that I'm only going to Daytona if I'm racing in it. But let's back up for a second. So you had to qualify your way in. And for a second, watching on TV, it looked like you almost weren't going to be able to. There was car troubles. You said you told the pit reporter something like 1 in a million. You've never seen this happen to your car before. Maybe it was the pit guy that you explained the problem to that said that. Regardless, talk about getting in. Like, kind of, you had your back up against the wall. You were racing for 4 spots. There were 6 of you. For a second, your car was in the garage, not moving at all, and then you end up racing on Sunday. What was that like?
Well, you're exactly right. It was not moving at all and was leaking fluids, very, very important fluids. And so, we didn't even get to make a qualifying run on the Wednesday night. And honestly, since there's no practice, that was going to be the only practice that I got before the dual race. So when we started preparing the car for qualifying, an oil heater had basically shorted out and made the oil line explode. And so therefore the oil then was no longer in the engine. And that we don't have a spare and we don't have a spare car. So everyone that had spare oil lines, well, they were on their spare cars. So they were not going to give those to us. So it was a very, very challenging situation just to get that oil line replaced in time for the duel the next day. And now I've never driven the car at all at speed, and we're going straight into the race. And honestly, that's it's kind of crazy. I mean, I've got a lot of racing experience in my life. I've been very lucky to do, what I've done, but NASCAR is it's a different ball game. And you got to respect the craft, like the drafting and how that race works is kind of crazy. And so we went into the duel, and as soon as we got in the duel, the thing's bouncing around like something. It was like bouncing around like a lawnmower if you're trying to mow lawn on like a old motocross track. Like it was insane the way it worked, and everything was going wrong until it went right. And thankfully, I mean, you guys know how Daytona works. There can be some crashes. There can be some, some stuff kicking off. And we were on the right side of history this time, thankfully, and we were able to make it in somehow.
Yeah, no, and congratulations again. I mean, I guess I should have posited, like, as far as our expectations versus the reality of what you did, we're in awe of what you did.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, like going down there and seeing, like, these storylines with guys like you and guys like Pastrana, non-traditional guys being in there and swinging away at it is mind-boggling, particularly when we stand there against the rail and watch guys go by at 200 miles an hour with some lawnmower parts in there. Let me ask you a question, and I don't know if this is a real mouth-breather question or one that you have to step away from all the time for fear of hurting people's feelings. But with all things considered, an equal, experience and equal equipment, what do you think's more difficult? What do you think's more difficult? Or what do you think's the most difficult part of driving in motorsports, right? Because you said you've done it all, and looking at your resume, you did. I mean, starting go-kart racing when you're fucking 10. What's the most difficult thing that you've done? Is it this?
So honestly, that's a great question, and people the fan bases love to get this question going because everyone defends their sport, to the death, right? And like part of what kind of makes me mad about just motorsport in general is like how angry some of the fan bases do get that like you're either one or the other. And I'm not gonna lie, I watch them all. Like I don't care if it's Formula One, NASCAR, IndyCar, it doesn't matter. Like I just like racing. I like cars that go fast, and if they're passing each other, that's great. You know what I mean? So for me, it's hard to compare. I think right now, when you look at it, if you're a professional in NASCAR, IndyCar, or Formula One, you're one of the best drivers in the world. It doesn't matter if you're one or the other. You've put in enough years in your life, probably most of your life, to make it to the highest level. And NASCAR is a different art form. Like I think in IndyCar, the one thing that's unique about IndyCar is the fact that we get drivers from both NASCAR and Formula One that come to compete at the Indy 500, or Jimmy Johnson, who tries to do the whole season. You know what I mean? And so that's the one thing that makes IndyCar unique, that hopefully as this general motorsport rise in attention, kind of hopefully, rising tide raises all the boats type thing. I hope that gets a little bit more attention than it's getting currently. But NASCAR, I mean, we've seen many IndyCar drivers try to go to NASCAR, and it's been very hard. Honestly, the only one who's really made a successful run at it is AJ Allmendinger, because he's been around for now over 10 years, but it took him that long to, compete for that Xfinity championship last year, be really successful. He got a team behind him like Colleague that are really good. And now he's finally back in Cup. And I would say that guy's got a great chance of winning most of the road courses and other races as well. So it's hard to say which one is better, because I don't think it's even possible to do that. If you're at the top level of NASCAR, you're really freaking good. If you're at the top level of IndyCar, you're really freaking good. And if you're at the top of Formula One, you're also good. But I love to see when everyone comes to do the Indy 500. Like, we'll see Kyle Larson do it next year. We've seen Kurt Busch do it in the past. Fernando Alonso, Formula One drivers. So, like, that's what's fun about the IndyCar side.
That would have been a perfect time for you to say the Truck Series and give those sons of bitches a little shot in the arm. Totally.
Hey, I love the Truck Series. Yeah. I'm going to do a truck race, I think, later this year. Give them some shine, for
Christ's sake, then. What do you got, Spencer?
So one thing we see is a lot of guys, come from NASCAR and try to run IndyCar. We've seen Jimmy Johnson, Kyle Larson. You just mentioned a few. I want to know, and I know you just kind of spoke a little bit of this to Large's last question, but a lot of those guys also go from NASCAR to dirt. They spend their spare time or the few weekends off racing dirt races. Do you think it's harder for a NASCAR driver to go to dirt or for an IndyCar driver to go to stock car racing, i.e. you driving in the Daytona 500?
Man, that's interesting, because a lot of the stock car guys do come from that dirt background, right? Like Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, so good in the dirt.
Right.
And I tried to do that too. I went and did the Chili Bowl over there in Tulsa. Very difficult. Like, I'm not going to lie. That stuff is an art. That is extremely challenging. I would say it's harder for us open wheel guys to go race dirt than anything else. But honestly, man, I think everything has its small pieces that make it hard, right? Like dirt racing for me, well, there's no track time, but they race 200 nights a year. So that's a lot of practice. Right. You know what I mean? And, for me, I did it like 8 times, and I thought, I was like, well, this is hard. I've retired. I did 6 front flips and landed upside down. And I was like, you know what? I'm retired from dirt racing. That's about it. So I don't know what's harder. I would say in general, for a NASCAR guy like Jimmy Johnson, we know he is one of the best that's ever walked the earth. He really struggled in IndyCar. And it was hard, and he will admittedly say that. But when he got on the ovals, like when he was at the Indy 500 last year, he was pretty quick. And when he was at Iowa last year, he was pretty quick, finishing the top 10, great couple races, because he was used to the oval stuff. He's an oval guy, right? So that I would say, and when you see Kyle Larson getting the Indy 500 next year, Kyle Larson's going to have a shot to win it, because he is, I think, one of the most naturally talented drivers on the face of the planet right now.
How about this one? So you mentioned a couple races that the money team has intentions to run later this year. But if it were up to the driver, if it were up to Conor Daly, for you to pick the races that you participate, which races on the NASCAR schedule pop out to you and kind of get your juices flowing, if you will?
Oh, man. I mean, for me, I'm a road course guy, right? So, like, I want to do the Indy Double, which I think we're going to do, which is awesome, the Brickyard Weekend, IndyCar, NASCAR on the same weekend. But I want to do Talladega. I've heard a lot of crazy things about Talladega, mainly for just that whole experience in general. I think Darlington would be a cool one to do. That track has so much history, and it also looks very difficult, like from a driving side, which is kind of a cool challenge. But also Watkins Glen as a road course, like that's a really cool track that I think always provides some really good racing. And maybe Bristol, not the dirt Bristol, but like pavement Bristol. That's kind of another one. Bristol night race. Sign me up for that. That could be cool.
That would be very cool.
We can't wait to do Talladega either. It's
no.
I assumed you guys were going to be there for that one.
Yeah, I'm going to be naked. So when you kind of, like when we hear about these people, seeing like a single car company win the Daytona 500, and you see Doherty, and he's kind of front and center. We saw MJ smoking a cigar in one of the boxes down in Daytona. We don't see Floyd. So for just somebody who's a big boxing fan like myself, how present is Floyd with all this stuff with the money team? Is he an absentee dad, or is he one of those guys? Does he avoid you because you kind of look like Canelo? Like what's the relationship from your view, which is a lot closer than ours, with Floyd Mayweather?
Floyd Mayweather is a guy that I really do want to hang out with at some point. Okay. We have not got to yet. And this race, he was getting ready for an exhibition fight, I think, next week. So he wasn't able to come to the Daytona 500, sadly. But he's definitely, I guess, not necessarily distant, but it's not his day job, right? Like he's involved in NASCAR because I think there's a lot of, potential business opportunities that could be good for him there. And I think he likes NASCAR racing in general. So a lot of his team have communicated with me as well. They called me after we made the race. They were super pumped about it. But definitely hope to have Floyd at one of our races this year. And if by an act of God we do win, I can only imagine that there will be a party that would match potentially any party on a plane to Vegas, I assume.
That would be something. Well, we'll have to RSVP now. Consider us there.
Yeah, you guys are invited 1,000,000%.
So I saw a tweet from you that said you ran the race on Sunday without a rear view mirror. What can you explain what that was like? What that was all about?
It sucked, honestly. I'll tell you that right out the gate. So now the new Cup cars have basically a rear view camera, right? So a lot of the modern cars on the street have these really, really detailed rear view cameras for when you back up, et cetera. So NASCAR, they've implemented these on all the new cars, and they're great. You can see way more than the old school rear view mirrors. They help mostly at super speedways. And Austin Cindric, there was a quote after the race that he spends 70% of the race looking in that rearview camera, but ours just never switched on. So beginning of the race, the thing never switched on, electrical issue. In the Roval that I did, mine caught on fire. So that's 2 races now that I've done without this rearview camera. I hear it's great. Not really sure what it looks like.
Conor, do you mind if I break in here 1 sec?
Yes.
Do you think somebody's out to get you a little bit? You think with all this shit, you think people are cutting hoses and ripping out fucking wires? Or are you just an unlucky guy? Either way, I don't want to drive with you, to be quite honest with you. It seems like you're public enemy number 1 here.
There was a hashtag that used to go around the internet that was Bad Luck Conor, and they replaced that Bad Luck Brian meme guy with my face. And it was a thing for a while, but I'm very lucky to do what I do. So I cannot claim to be that guy, but there's been some wild stuff that's happened. And I don't know, maybe IndyCar guy coming to NASCAR. Someone's not a fan of that. Who knows? I don't know. But
I heard it was Jimmy Johnson.
It might have been Jimmy. Yeah. You know, he owes me at least 2 bottles of bourbon that he promised me as well. So
good luck.
I don't know if he's mad that I keep coming after him, but not good to do the race with no rear camera, because we have a physical mirror like you would in your road car, but you can't see anything out of it because the giant spoiler in the back basically blocks the entire view. Yeah. So you could see, like, the only car I could see at one point was Ryan Blaney's car because he had a giant neon yellow roof, and that was it.
It seems unfair. All right, so this was Conor Daly. Conor, listen, it was a pleasure meeting you down there. We happened to bump into you by the haulers right after we were talking to Travis Pastrana, and we wish you nothing but the best of luck in the future, and we hope to talk to you again. I'm going to mention it again. So he hosts a podcast on top of driving just about anything with wheels. He hosts a podcast called Speed Street with our old friend Joey Molinaro, and it's on Dirty Mo Media. Don't listen to that until you listen to this, obviously. But honestly, Conor, it was a pleasure. We hope to see you in Indy. We hope to see you, all over the place.
Absolutely. No, thank you guys. Love that this podcast is going to shoot up to the moon. We respect it. We like you guys covering NASCAR. Been a Barstool fan for many, many years. So I appreciate you guys having me on.
Excellent,
thank you,
man.
Conor. Good luck.
Talk to you soon. All right, so that's it. That puts a bow on a great race with Daytona, and thank you, Conor Daly, for taking some time out to speak to us. So what's next? What's next is Fontana, right? We go out to California. Right?
Auto Club. Let's do it, baby.
Let's go.
The last time before it gets redesigned. So this is really all the betting material that we have to this point. This is our last chance to use it. So
it's the Pala Casino 400 2-mile track. So that means 200 laps. And yeah, I like I said before, it's so strange because Spider and I have been doing this now. We did the LA Coliseum, and it didn't count. It's just different. They ran it in a fucking football stadium. And then we did the Daytona 500 last week, and it almost doesn't count because it's so singular. Restrictor plate racing in a super speedway, and it's the beginning of the season. There's no empirical evidence about how anyone's going to be doing going forward. It's almost like the season kicks off this week in California. Do you kind of feel that way, Spider? Like, I feel like, I know Daytona's not an exhibition, but it has that different feel to it.
No, I definitely know what you mean. I mean, sure, Daytona is good for, data points on the 5 remaining super speedway races that exist on NASCAR's 2023 schedule. But to your point, yes, part of me does feel like this is really the first look at kind of what we can expect on a recurring basis this season. So, yeah, I'm very excited. This is really kind of the start, as you said.
Yeah, it's an intermediate track. It's the last time they're going to be racing on this thing before it allegedly goes to a short track. I say allegedly because nothing's written in stone. But this is going to be the last time that they race on this 2-mile oval. It's a worn-out, slippery track. That's what it's known for. So it's one of those things where, tires become a huge issue in this. They threw out a headline the other day that Misty May Trainer is the honorary starter for the Cup race at Fontana.
I love her.
Yeah, I don't care about
Love
her. Yeah, I mean, she's so gold medal beach volleyball,
Her
right?
and Carrie Walsh.
Yeah, but don't you think? Yeah, I guess that's a bonk.
Why do you
You're
love
not going
her,
to get me to
Quigs?
talk shit about
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Is that a bonk? The reason I don't care about it is because they named the Grand Marshal, and it's Michael Rooker. And I know, like, Michael Rooker's not a looker. That actually rhymes. But I'm a Walking Dead fan, and obviously he was Merlin Walking Dead. Maybe not. I'm a Guardians of the Galaxy fan. He's Yondu and that type of thing. But he's also in Days of Thunder. He's Rowdy Burns. So I think it's so NASCAR to have him as the gentleman start your engines type guy. And he had said, this is a quote, "As I return to another NASCAR race, this is Michael Rooker. He's the Grand Marshal this weekend at Pala Casino 400. As I return to another NASCAR race, I can unequivocally state that I agree with Robert Duvall's character who said, 'Rubbin's son is racing.'" That's big for us.
That's
right.
massive.
Like, just to kind of keep that thing going. So even though you're the trader who's more in bed with Misty May Trainer, the two guys over here, and I'd like to think that Liam's on our side, big fucking fans of Michael Rooker going into this thing.
I'll even it out and take quick side.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So
this-
wait, what is Misty May doing?
She's going to be the starter. You know, they do the starter drop in the
Yes.
thing, but the Grand Marshal, I think, is the guy
Gives
who
the
yells it
command.
out.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
the same thing in L.A. They had the Heisman Trophy winner and Rob Lowe.
Yep.
Right? They always have
That's
people
right.
just so they could put another celebrity up there.
When are they going to have Spider Enlarge?
Oh, that's going to be big.
gonna
They
be
should do it
massive.
at the Hollywood, right? In Kansas?
That would be something.
The Hollywood 400. All right, so this is it's 50 miles east of Los Angeles. For the weekend, they're going to have the Xfinity Series Alliance Group 300, and then continue Sunday with the NASCAR Cup Series Pala Casino 400. And you can watch this on Fox starting at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time on the 26th. The two storylines, as I had mentioned, was the track surface, which is one of the more abrasive on the circus, will cause tires to wear heavily, so tire management will come into play, right? There'll be 4 tire stops all day. The second will be the air pressure. Sometimes they'll drop the left side front air pressure in an attempt to gain some sort of grip, but then they're playing a dicey game when you're kind of dropping pressure like that. So that's it. So we're going into Fontana, and what do you guys think? Because at this point, this is when we're going to throw in our picks. And our picks are always done on the Barstool Sportsbook, as you know. We're always done. We have the Barstool exclusives on there. They had Spider's mug up with one of the picks last week on the thing. You have picks and parlays from Spider, Big Cat, Presidente, all the other personalities to follow or fade. Tons of ways to bet. Daily odds boosts, live in-game bets, move the line plus teasers. Parlay Plus to bet with the same games or across sports. The Barstool Sportsbook application is very easy to navigate and very easy to use. I'm a moron and I do it. It has data and content to keep you informed. It's easy to register and it's easy to deposit and withdraw. How do you get in there? You download the app today. You create an account with the code RUBBIN. And if you use that code, RUBBIN, RUBBIN, you'll get a $1,000 new player bonus. If your first bet loses, you get up to $1,000 in bonus cash. You must be 21 years or older to do this. And if you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, so with that, let's throw out some picks for people who are going to sit down and watch the Pala Casino 400 from the Auto Club this weekend. Spider, what do you got?
All right, well, I'm going to tell you exactly
Wow, I'm
what
exhausted
I got.
after that intro, by the way. Holy shit.
Take a breath for a
Thanks,
second,
baby.
Large.
I will say, before we get in that, just on the Barstool Sportsbook, it seems like it's become the
A
NASCAR
NASCAR book?
Sportsbook.
It is.
I was talking to
very
Jack Mack today.
naturally.
Fucking numbers are up. I said that should reflect directly
Our
on
checks.
the four of us.
Yeah.
'Cause
Right now.
We'll deal with it with like advisors a lot, where it's people take our picks, but they put them in all over the place.
Yeah.
Anybody gambling on NASCAR, all I see is Barstool Sportsbook bet
Yeah.
slips. I don't think a lot of the other books put a lot of energy or time.
No,
into.
they don't. And
So
we're
it's
honestly the
very
first
cool.
to market with a lot of things. We were first with the Clash.
Yeah.
As well as duels, I think. So definitely check it out, Barstool Sportsbook. In addition to the picks,
Rubbin. If you register with the code Rubbin.
yes,
Right? Okay, go.
Yes,
Yeah.
use code Rubbin. We'll get even more love. But yeah, let's keep NASCAR and Barstool Sportsbook number one. We're P1 right now, and the way we keep doing that is with your guys' engagement and our collective ideas. So one idea I have for this week is either Kyle to win. I'm talking Kyle Busch or Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson last year, in my opinion, and I'll say it, I like Kyle Larson. I hope he doesn't hear this or take this to heart. He had a disappointing season. You watch Race for the Championship. Kyle Larson talked about how sick it would be to defend his NASCAR Cup champion and win in back-to-back years in two different cars, the old model and then the Gen 7 car. He ended up winning, 3 races last year? Not a knock on him. I'm just saying it was a disappointing season. Despite that, he still won this race, the second race of the year, Fontana Auto Club, last season. So in a disappointing season, he still managed to get the win. I don't know what this season holds for him. I don't think it'll be as disappointing. I have higher expectations. I think he could be back to championship level Kyle Larson that we saw in 2021. And I think it starts with a win for Kyle Larson here this weekend. So if not him, Kyle Busch. Those are the guys I like. I also think there's some tremendous value to be found deep in the odds. So I'm looking at last year's results. Last year, this race, Austin Dillon finished second. Austin Dillon is currently plus 4,000 to win the race. How about Eric Jones, a third-place finisher, plus 2,500 to win the race? There's a lot of guys here that I think have tremendous value, including another guy I'll throw out here, Daniel Suarez, who is plus 4,000 currently on the Barstool.
You can't take
Sportsbook.
them all.
You can't take them all.
Save some for QUIGS. Save some
Yeah,
for guys.
so-
there's a lot of overlap.
So
there.
listen,
Yeah.
I'm on either. Hopefully, the beautiful people at Barstool Sportsbook, with our collective engagement and efforts, will be able to price either Kyle to win on the same ticket. Now, if you don't like that or you can't do it, Kyle Larson is plus 700. Kyle Busch is currently plus 1,000, 10-1. Lock those in separately. Those are my two main plays. Lock them in together if we're able to get it priced. Quigs, which overlap did we have? I'm interested to hear.
I like Jones to win it. I think that's going to be my one pick. Yeah, my one pick to win it all is Jones. I think in 5 races, he has 3 top 10 finishes, top 5 finish. He's very good at this track.
That's plus 2,500.
Yeah.
That's not a chalk pick.
No,
Right.
No,
not
absolutely
at all.
not.
But I think it's a trendy pick. I think people see a
Right.
lot of value in it, which usually isn't a good thing. And then my 2 top 3 picks is I like Harvick. Like with the
Right.
he was very good at Atlanta with their old shitty track. He's
Right.
like very good at managing his tires, and he's plus 575 for a top 3 finish.
He's raced there 28 times. He has 14. I was looking at him too.
Yeah.
Because I think he's going to get a win or two this season.
Yeah, has to.
And he's got 14 top 10s there.
Yeah.
Right? You know, on top of it, because I was kind of looking at him a little bit further out, but there's no money in having him in there for the top 10. But I didn't put him on my sheep. I like that.
Yeah. So
You
I
don't like
him.
old people, so you're not in that, right?
You know, I'm here for Harvick's final season. I didn't
Good.
like when he was him and Chase were beefing. I'm Team Chase. I'm Team Young Guns in that game. But yeah, I don't know. Although he did say what was the tour? The No Fucks Given
No
tour.
Yeah,
Fucks
no
Given
fucks
tour.
given to her.
I'm here for that. So yeah, I think I
yeah,
have to be Team Harvick.
I like
thus
that.
far.
I like Suarez top 3 as well, plus 1,200. I just think he's raced there good. It's a long shot, but he doesn't have to win it. And then I really like Keselowski top 10 plus 200.
Okay.
Brad K is just all like he's a guy that I always forget to bet on because he's not bad to where he's got great odds. He's not good to where you're like he's going to win this race. But he's so consistent and always there that, like, him just sneaking it, like, him finishing 8th would not surprise me.
How about, I got a question for you guys. I'm looking at Ricky Stenhouse, who is coming off a win, obviously. Top 10, which he finished 10th here last year, is plus 275. You think he can do it again?
Nah.
I don't know. That's like a letdown race, right? Like just like
He's
with any
usually
sport.
a speedway restrictor plate kind of guy, but
right.
You never know. All right, sorry, Quigs. I didn't mean to.
No,
cut you off.
that's
those
the
end of
my
your
picks.
card.
I'm keeping it just the.
So give me
the
those
simple.
three.
So
So you have
Jones-
Harvick, Jones,
Eric Jones to win.
and Suarez top.
Harvick and Suarez top 3. Keselowski top 10.
Okay.
Okay.
And I think Keselowski top 10 is going to be my big play.
So not Jones. Well, Jones, you got a lot of juice on.
Yeah,
so.
everything else has pretty good juice
Okay.
to where, but Keselowski, I don't know. I think top 10 is pretty.
If he's
pretty
running
easy
that
for
King's
him.
Hawaiian car, I think I'll ride with you because that thing's fucking sharp.
Yeah.
All right, Large.
I'm taking my the longer shot winner. I'm taking Austin. I'm taking Austin Dillon.
I like
just because it's that plus 4,000.
And I mean, how
This
about
Barstool Sportsbook, obviously, with no other sportsbook, don't even look at any other ones. So I like that. I like the way he raced last week, too. By the way, I was very close to getting drunk with his pit crew and getting a tattoo at Daytona on my ass if they would have won on Sunday night. I had to ask, by the way, I was like, honey, I told my wife, I was like, I might be leaving. Yeah, I got to do it.
Would
for
you have
work.
gone through with that?
Yeah, I would have
actually?
gone through with that. Yeah.
was that just for you, or did you sign up the both of us?
No, I just signed up. But when you ran away when they brought out the shots of whiskey,
You knew.
I kind of felt that you and Liam weren't fucking foxhole guys.
We weren't down
That's
for
all
ass
that I was going to
tats.
say with that. Yeah. So I'm taking Austin Dillon plus 4,000. Listen, I want to show some love. You guys are saying the No Fucks Given tour. I want to show some love to the Revenge tour that I said that Martin Truex has this year,
Like it.
which maybe doesn't exist. But I'm not sure if I want to bet Martin. So I think
You can't.
Do it.
Right?
What's that? I
You
don't-
promised him you wouldn't.
Oh yeah.
I can't do it. So I found a way around it. One of my only winners last week was the Chevy manufacturer. I'm taking Toyota. I'm taking
Okay.
Toyota at plus 210 because then I get Denny, Chris Bell, Tyler Reddick, who I might even take as the best Toyota at plus 350. So I think I'm going to take Toyota to win. I think I'm going to take Tyler as the best Toyota within there. And again, Ty Gibbs, Bubba Wallace, Martin Truex, Tyler Reddick, Christopher Bell, Denny Hamlin. You all get them at plus 210. Second longest odds. Obviously, Ford is up there at plus 255.
I love that play, Large.
I don't
'cause
mind it, right?
I'll tell you what I don't love is Ford to win the race.
Yeah, no, I
think
don't. I don't like Ford. I'm riding Toyota. I don't like Ford to win the race. Yeah. And then the sort of chalk pick. I think I'm going to start betting Logano. I think I'm going to start betting Logano more often than not. And Logano right now is plus 1,200, so I'm going to put him in the book. So I got Logano. I got Toyota to win. Oh, and I went to the Barstool Sportsbook, and I said we were minus 10.5 last week. And people were coming up to us at Daytona saying that they love that bet. And for the first time that we placed that bet, it was very interesting to be invested with that bet right up into the last couple of laps, particularly with Busch, right?
Yeah.
And with Austin Dillon.
And Keselowski.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's just so many names
Yeah.
that are still like. You're going to have people alive if you have 10 drivers.
Yeah. And so I was going to go back to the well. The Barstool Sportsbook changed it to under 9.5 for plus 158. So they took Cindric away from us. And so I went to them. I was like, I know you guys tease stuff for Spider and I. Can you tease that to get us, minus 11.5? And they can't do that. And I don't give a shit. I am going to throw something on under 9.5 because I still want Chase and Kyle and Austin. Like I'm still grouping those. I like those low number drivers, so I am going to ride that for the second time, even though it didn't work for us last week. So I'm throwing a little something on the under 9.5. Not bad, right?
Not bad. Not bad.
So
I like the
that's-
Toyota pick.
Yeah, Toyota pick's a little bit different. I don't mind that at all. All right, is there anything else that we have to cover this week?
I
I
think
have
that's
nothing else on my sheet. All
pretty
right,
much
so
it.
for the first time in 2 or 3 weeks, we're not going out to the race. One of the reasons that I'm taking Logano is I'm thinking about making a big pot of Guinea Red, Brajol and the whole deal, and sitting down for the first time and watching a NASCAR race in front of a big bowl of pasta, just because of it, even though he's probably an Olive Garden Italian. So that's it. I'm riding with Logano as one of my guys, and you got the rest of our picks. This is Rubbing His Racing on behalf of Liam, myself, Quigs, and most importantly, Spider. We are telling you, please tune in because we're going to have Stenhouse. We're going to have the vlog coming out from over the weekend.
Pastrana interview.
The Pastrana interview. So it's going to be a lot of shit coming out of Barstool. And make sure you go to the Barstool Sportsbook and use the code RUBBIN and enjoy the race.
Bang.